And there it is.
We are live. Hey guys, welcome to Kiss Corner. So I had a lead in line from the four corners of the internet.
That's it.
We bring you Scott Palacio,
Hello.
Conrad, Art Thibert, and as always, Tag. Welcome to Kiss Corner.
It is Kiss Corner.
Yes. So okay, I introduced Scott. So hey Scott, how you doing?
I'm very well. And yourself?
Good, good, good. And we may have Kevin joining us later. We gave him a link. Yeah. And Tag, how you doing?
Hi, Art. Hi, Scott. Doing well. How about you guys?
Hey, great.
Well,
Ready to talk about Kiss?
Yes.
Yeah. We couldn't.
Beautiful Saturday morning.
Yeah, we couldn't be doing better. I mean, we're talking about Kiss on a Saturday morning. There is nothing better.
No.
Okay. So how was your week, Scott? What have you been up to?
It was good. I just busy with work and reading up on Kiss stuff. And that's a regular thing for me. All through the week I listen to something or read something. Especially now is actually a really good time with all the a lot of publicity with this End of the Road tour. And I don't know if any of you guys saw the footage from they just finished the Kiss cruise. And and there was a big debate over whether Paul Stanley was really singing or not. Judging from that, he is singing, because why would you lip sync to something that sounded like that? I mean, Of course he's singing. Of course that's him.
Well, have you seen the Times Square promotional stuff for the tour?
Oh, it's everywhere. They're huge. Yeah. I mean, they've just gone all out. I mean, publicizing this thing. They're all
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So Taylor, if I hit screen share, will it take me over to the photos and stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's try this.
I'm watching.
Go over.
Hey.
There.
Vinyl copy. Oh my God.
That's my happy face.
Does that say $3.99?
It does.
Oh my God.
It was like from the warehouse.
Oh, really? The nice price or whatever those things said, the nice price. They would discount it.
Hey, Scott, I don't think that was a discounted price. I think
that was actually it. Are you serious?
I have albums that are $2.99. I'm not
wow.
kidding.
God, I think I paid $6 at I think Kmart, either Kmart or Zodi's.
Zodi.
Yeah, right? Zodi. Imperial and yeah.
We're Norwalk shops.
So. That's right. We're Norwalk.
I was wondering if that was a local thing. I was like, I don't know.
Well, they
what
were
that
a national chain, I think, but there was one in Norwalk. It was like a staple of Norwalk. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge chain, but but it was a chain nonetheless.
Zodi's.
Yeah. So I didn't want to derail. I just wanted to give a visual while we're
talking. Awesome.
Pretty cool.
That. I know.
It wasn't a huge chain, but
Oops. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, mic error.
So this is probably more where we're at.
Hey, there it is. The famous Ken Kelly, right?
Yeah. Somehow we found a pretty decent high res of this cover.
That is a high res.
Yeah.
A lot of the images online are like photos and stuff that the people have of the albums. It seems kind of rare to find like a good. It almost looks restored. It might be a little digitally restored.
So what we are going to do today is Scott is the resident Kisstorian here, Kissologist, and so what we are going to do is we are going to do a breakdown of Kiss Destroyer. It's the fourth album, right? It's the fourth album.
It actually is. I mean, because Alive, fifth, because there were the first three and then Alive, and then Destroyer. So technically the fourth studio album, yes.
Right. Okay. And so, so Scott knows all the ins and outs of the recording process and who did what. And I know a little bit, but not as much as Scott. So we're going to go over track by track of the Kiss Destroyer album. And Taylor has queued up a very special Peter Criss track, None of Your Business, that will play after it. So if you guys stick around for the whole the whole breakdown, then we will treat you with that. And we're not going to be able to play a lot of these the music because we, the way YouTube is, we don't get in trouble. But yeah, we're gonna do that. So I'm gonna give a cue, just like an audio cue of each song, and then Scott and I will break them down, and Taylor will chime in with the chat. So if you guys are listening, feel free to ask questions and stuff. And Taylor, Scott and I, once we get going, we'll get pretty crazy. But feel free to interrupt us if there's somebody in the chat. Yeah.
All right. We should probably lock your screen.
Okay.
Let me see. I don't think it's locked right now.
So should I just go back? Because we don't need this, or should we keep this?
It's pretty good.
Well, we're going to go to your articles right now. Yeah. So Taylor's going to read. We have a bunch of articles, and so we can get some context. So Taylor, how do I get back to? I want to get to the articles. So just stop sharing, or just go over here. Okay. Click the intro. I did. This one. Yeah.
Hold on, I gotta jump back now.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. We've done it twice where we actually killed the feed by pushing the wrong button. Yeah. So
that's a good one. 20 things you might not know about Kiss Destroyer.
Yeah, so there's 2 articles we have. We have this, and then we have a Wikipedia article or rundown, and it'll give you some kind of historical kind of context, and then Scott and I will break down the album. So whenever you're ready, Taylor, do you want me to start scrolling this?
Okay.
Okay, so it says on March 15th, 1976, Kiss released their 4th album, so it must be studio album then.
Yeah.
And then to celebrate the classic 42nd anniversary, here are 20 things you might not know about the album. So here's number 1. I can't hear you, Taylor.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, hold on to make sure everything's set up here. Okay, now you can hear me.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, Destroyer was the band's first album to spotlight outside musicians, including the Brooklyn Boys Chorus and members of New York's Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra.
I think a couple of those kids are from the Jackson 5 over there on the right side there. They're doing double duty, man.
Let's see.
And do you know what song they were featured on Tag? Does it say?
It actually doesn't say.
Great Expectation. The song called Great Expectation had this beautifully produced choir and actually orchestra. And it's a great, actually Bob Ezrin. I think Bob Ezrin did all the arrangements. He came from a classical background. But he actually used, a lot of people don't know this, that one of the main parts of the songs is actually taken from a Beethoven movement.
Interesting.
Yeah. In the arrangement, it's fascinating. It's great.
Is that Bob? Is that Bob in the foreground moving his arms around?
No, actually, who is that? No,
that's
Gene.
Bob.
That's Gene.
It's Gene.
That's Ace. One of the few times he actually showed up.
He actually showed up, exactly.
The recording session.
He was there. Yeah.
All right, number 2.
All right.
The band started recording sessions for Destroyer at New York's Electric Lady Studios on
That's
September 3rd, 1975.
2 days. Yeah, 2 days at Electric Ladyland, and then they moved somewhere else for January and February. Through January and February. I don't know why.
Maybe because their first demo was Peter Criss's song, Ain't None of Your Business. The song didn't make the album. Yes. The song didn't make the album, but was later sung by the group Detective, appearing on their 1977 debut.
And who famous came from Detective, do you know?
I don't.
Art would know this.
Oh my gosh.
Big name, big guy.
I know, a solo performer.
Michael DeBar.
Michael DeBar, there you go.
Ooh, we should play both of their versions and see which one's better.
I got a feeling that Michael DeBar will.
I think it was Michael DeBar, and then also in Detective, I think was the Rusty Hoff, the Paul McCartney guy, the guitar player. I think he was in Detective as well.
Is that Michael? Did he later become an actor? Does
he did? He does.
did.
He still does. He still does movies. Yeah, and he's good.
He was the guy that did. It was when they went back to WKRP in Cincinnati. They did a revival, right? He was one of the guys.
Probably, I think he was.
Yeah, he was like the Johnny Thibert.
Yeah, he plays a great villain.
Yeah, he's got a British accent, right?
Oh yeah.
He's like, I'll kill you, because all the best villains are British.
British or European. You gotta.
That's true.
Good villain.
Yeah.
All right, number 3. Even though he is not credited, Dick Wagner, a guitarist from Alice Cooper's band, replaced Ace Frehley on Flaming Youth and Sweet Pain. Plus, he played acoustic guitar on Beth. Ace reportedly wasn't showing up consistently to recording sessions.
Allegedly, with Sweet Pain, it was over a card game. He had a card game going and didn't want to leave, supposedly.
He's got his priorities.
Yeah, exactly. His priorities. And then I guess he had notoriously had problems with the way Bob Ezrin ran things in the because Bob Ezrin was a taskmaster, and he wanted to be on a schedule and get things done. And
that would be number 4.
And they just weren't used to that, and he really had a problem with that and didn't like it. But so he brought in. Yeah, okay, well, no problem. I'll just bring someone in.
It sounds about right, because number 4 is Paul Stanley once compared working on Destroyer with producer Bob Ezrin as musical boot camp, since Ezrin taught them music theory and even wore a whistle.
Yeah, and supposedly they didn't even know how to tune their guitars.
Wow.
That's what he said. I think one of the first things is a great art. I don't know where I read it, but one of the first things he said is, okay, great. Looking forward to it. First things first, you guys know how to tune your guitars.
Wow.
I heard that like Gene Simmons just stopped in the middle of a take, and then that Bob Ezrin just blew that whistle and said, "No, you will not end at the in the middle of a take. I will tell you when to end."
Okay. They just weren't used to that because they were working previously with the same 2 guys. For the first 3 albums, Kenny Korner and Richie Wise. Did the first 3 records, and I think Dress to Kill, the guy, Neil Bogart, I think produced Dress to Kill, but it was still, I think, Kenny Korner or Richie Wise behind the board. But as you can imagine, a much looser environment and party, and Bob Ezrin just came from a totally different thing. He had a schedule, and wanted to get do a record and be on a schedule, get things done. In a certain order. And I guess it just didn't sit well with, I think, 2 of the guys notoriously in the band.
I can see how Ace, yes. I was going to say, I can see how someone like Ace would be resistant to that.
Yeah.
I like the Neil Bogart stuff, though. He also did like the Hendrix stuff and things, right?
That's Eddie Kramer.
Oh, that's Eddie Kramer.
Yeah.
What? Okay, so Neil Bogart did the first 2 albums then?
He did. No, it was Kenny Korner and a guy named Richie Wise, whom I believed at the time they were working for Bell Sound. I think that's the studio where they did the records. But and then Neil Bogart was the owner of Casablanca.
Oh, okay.
And he for some reason or somehow he took producer credit on Dress to Kill. I don't know how much he actually had to do with it, because Gene Simmons had always said that he believed that Neil Bogart was tone deaf.
Okay.
So I don't know, but I guess he came up with the whole concept of having an anthem, and then the birth of Rock and Roll All Night was from that conversation.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, he ran a fairly successful
exactly. So he must know something. Yeah.
For a while, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I heard that Casablanca was in the crapper before Destroyer, before the live album.
Live, yeah. Oh, they didn't know what they were going to do. They didn't have any money.
Yeah.
They put all this money into these bands that Neil Bogart thought were going to be so successful, and groomed them, and they went nowhere. Like Piper being one of them. Billy Squires' first band was one.
Parliament.
Yeah, and they really did.
Funkadelics.
Yeah, they did really, the
Was that real?
That was real. That was real. And that was one of their bands, but they weren't globally successful. Like they were, I mean, they were. I guess they had a degree of success, but they weren't like household names. And then they were in the crapper, and so I mean, Kiss really pulled that label out of the from the brink of probably folding. I think.
If I'm not mistaken, Destroyer also went it threw Kiss into an international.
Oh, absolutely.
Act. Yeah, they started touring Europe and things like that after Destroyer.
And then I got to ask you this too. I mean, don't you think that just the artwork alone and maybe what the album stood for in terms of the visual aesthetic, I mean, it really solidified Kiss into the Kiss that you kind of later became to know as like the superheroes of rock and roll. And I mean, that solidified that, just that album cover, the artwork, and these guys are different than any other band, just by the way they marketed themselves. And you didn't see the Eagles, on a mountain, in costumes,
yet
the cover of an album, like that. I mean, it just really solidified that whole thing. And I mean, it was what, I hate to say it, visually that drew me too. I was like, oh my God, guys, look at this. Guys are out conquering a mountain with fire behind them and destruction. And I mean, but that was it. I think that was what catapulted them into that whole thing.
That and the album. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna let Taylor read this. The reason I moved it is because I think we're gonna get vertigo just looking at this.
I've been staring at it this whole time.
Let's get past 5 real quick, and then we can keep talking.
Okay.
All right. Well, Destroyer, I think, was when Japan started taking notice, or Japanese fans, I should say. And in the Japanese release of Destroyer, it is subtitled "Army from or of Hell."
Nice.
That's pretty cool, man.
That's what got those fans.
I would love to have a pressing of that.
And number 6 is, because the album featured songs like God of Thunder, King of the Night, Time World, and Flaming Youth, rumors spread that Kiss actually stood for either Knights in Satan's Service or Kids in Satan's Service.
Yeah, always. That just followed them around forever.
I don't know. Like the Knights gives it nobility, but Kids sound more. It sounds more messed up, right?
Doesn't it? Yeah, Kids, and that just followed them forever. I mean, who made that up? Yeah,
I kind of love it.
It's cool, and it really did. It just added to the whole mystique. And
okay. Is this David Grohl?
Yes.
Okay, I have a little bit of trivia about this. Okay. Taylor knows Mike, and I don't know, Scott, if you ever met Mike. He was an old roommate in the Huntington Beach apartment on 5th Street.
I remember that.
Yeah, and he's a makeup guy, and he did the David Grohl makeup for the Pick of Destiny, the Tenacious D movie.
Yeah,
I didn't know he did that.
So he did this David Grohl makeup. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
He also did Fat Bastard from Austin Power.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's really good.
I mean, I vaguely remember him. I just remember Dan. Dan was always there.
Yeah, Dan. Now I even have the shirt on, the Stupid Idiotic in Las Vegas.
We should go visit and do a live show from the shop.
Oh, God. Cool.
Next weekend.
A little table set up. Oh man.
Road tour,
and then have the jammers. Big we each get a jammer statue. Dan
at the end of your stay there.
Let's see. Okay, number 7. Are you ready? The song "Detroit Rock City" was released as a 3rd single from the effort, but it never charted, sold poorly, and aside from in Detroit, didn't get much radio play. No. However, it has gone on to become a fan favorite, often used in TV shows and in movies, including, of course, the film of the same name.
Oh, yeah. And not only that, but I mean, oddly enough, the B-side to Detroit Rock City was Beth, which became a huge hit for them.
Oh,
so
yes.
that was the story. But I had heard Paul Stanley say that, yeah, he goes, they thought they had this great single on their hands and nobody was listening to it. And then some DJ turned it over and played Beth, and it became this enormous hit. Yeah.
That's pretty funny. And I think,
sorry, Art.
Oh, I'm sorry. Detroit is still like the biggest Kiss region, right?
Totally. Oh, yeah, yeah. And they did, and they embraced them before even New York. I mean, really, they were big in Detroit. They were playing major halls in Detroit before they were playing, big size halls anywhere else.
And of course, the newscast at the beginning of that song is read by Gene Simmons.
That's always been a debate too, whether that was him. And I had actually read that it's not. That I think Bob Ezrin said that they hired a guy to just come in and read it, but it sounds so much like Gene Simmons that that's really debatable. It sounds
really
like
does.
him. Yeah, it does.
That's Gene Simmons there in the glasses. That's what he looks like without the makeup and everything.
It was read by Les Nessman from WTRP.
There you go. And we're on the air.
I love that. Yeah. Les Nessman.
Yes. Okay, here we go.
All right. Number 9, Peter Criss co-wrote the song Beth before joining Kiss when he was still a member of a band called Chelsea. The lyrics were originally about Beck, a nickname for Becky, the wife of a Chelsea member, Mike Brand, who often called her husband during practices to ask when he'd be home. However, Paul Stanley has questioned Chris's role in penning the tune. Ooh.
He did, because it was written by a guy named Stan Pendridge.
And, so it wasn't written by Peter Criss.
Well, he's always said that he did write it, but then, of course, the Stan Pendridge guy got a co-writer credit. But so who knows who actually wrote the song? Because I mean, I don't think Peter Criss notoriously wrote music or anything. But yeah, the Stan Pendridge guy supposedly wrote the song, and it was called Beck. And I think there's an interview I saw years ago where Gene Simmons asked Peter Criss, like, is that about Jeff Beck? Like, what's that about?
That's pretty funny.
But yeah, it was about Becky. Yeah, it's her first wife, Becky.
It would be so different if it was singing about like the guitar player Beck, like, hey Beck, I can't come home right now.
I can't come home. So I don't know whose idea it was to actually change it to Beth. Maybe it was one of the other guys, Paul, but it was.
Oh, because Becky is the name of the other guy's band, like wife or whatever.
Yeah,
so they had to change it.
Beck,
yeah. The funny thing is too is like they're fighting over credit of who wrote the song, but really they're fighting over just the lyrical content because neither one of them wrote the music.
Yeah.
That had to have been Bob Ezrin, right?
Well, he did. And actually, Bob, you're right, because it's Bob Ezrin playing piano on the track, and Bob Ezrin, I think, he did all the arrangements. He did all the strings, and so I don't know what involvement. Obviously, Peter Criss got a huge writing credit for it. But notoriously, like they've even talked about, even like as far back as the first album or even Hotter Than Hell, like they would write something for him to sing because he just didn't write.
Just like Ringo Starr.
Like Ringo. Yeah, writing a song. Yeah.
He's the Ringo of Kiss.
He's the Ringo of Kiss. But he would threaten, I mean, even in later years, I think Love Gun, or even I know a Dynasty, that he would threaten, write me something or I'll walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always how best creativity comes out.
Yeah, that always works. Yeah, that creates a real, good environment.
You better do this or else.
Yeah, or else. Yeah. Or else. I'm going to sing again. Yeah.
Scott, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, Dick Wagner, acoustic guitar on Beth.
Yes.
Okay.
That's true.
There you go. I feel like I just scored points with Scott.
Fun fact.
And then another fun fact, because he did play on Sweet Pain as well, that amazing solo and that great riff that he plays, that opening riff is just great, amazing. And I just read something on social media about, oh, well, it would have been great to hear what Ace would have played on that. Well, you could, because when they reissued Destroyer, they put Ace's original parts on there as a added track as his solo and guitar. Yeah, so they did.
Yeah, there's a remastering, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so if you are an Ace fan,
you can hear it.
Don't fret, because he is not playing the solo on that version, but on the, is it called Remastered, or what is it? What is that album called?
It's all Resurrected.
Resurrected, that's it. Yeah.
And it's I love it. I actually really liked it, because the one thing that always sort of stood out about Destroyer is it's just completely bathed in this reverb. Like everything is so ambient, like it is. It's just so much. And then when the Resurrected came out, it was like the dry mixes. The drums came out a little more. Like it just sounded just beefier and a little more in your, like just in the middle, like the mix. Everything just sounded like it was just right there. And then noticeably, of course, the Ace Frehley stuff added back onto Sweet Pain, but I kind of prefer the Dick Wagner one, because that's, what you've heard your whole life. And yeah, I don't know. I like it. Just he plays an amazing part on that.
Hello to Denali and everybody joining us in the chat. Thanks for joining us at Kiss Corner this Saturday. Welcome.
Hello, Denali.
Hey, Denali. Hey, as far as albums, Destroyer was the big breakthrough album for the band, right?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, Alive gets the credit for being the big breakthrough album, because Alive gave them the platform to go and do a record like Destroyer. I mean, Alive definitely catapulted them into, gold record territory and sell out shows, and that gave them that platform to be more creative, I guess, and with Destroyer and do that kind of record. I don't know whose idea it was, if it was more the brainchild of someone like Bob Ezrin or themselves, the band, but I mean, who knows, with another, if they'd stuck with like the production team of the Richie Wise and Kenny Korner, who knows what it would have sounded like. I mean, Bob Ezrin had come from obviously making those great Alice Cooper records, and then later, of course, The Wall. He mixed, engineered mixed The Wall, produced The Wall for Pink Floyd. Yeah,
great album.
Yeah, exactly. So
do you think if Destroyer wouldn't have went, it's double platinum now, but do you think if it wasn't as big, if Kiss's career would have just been non-existent after that?
I think so. I think like some of the other bands in the stable of Casablanca, I think that they just would have been, I just think they would have fell by the wayside. And again, I just think it was everything about that record, the visual aesthetic, the huge, I mean, it just sounds worlds apart from the other records. Like, it's just the production.
But they have the material too, though. Like, do you think like, because there's 3 really strong songs on that. I think there's Detroit Rock City, there's Shout It Out Loud, and there's obviously Beth. And so do you think, if, just looking back historically, if Beth wasn't the success it was, do you think Kiss would have even had the career that they did? Because sometimes it's like in School of Rock, where they say, one, good rock song can change the world.
Yeah.
So do you think that maybe if that song never existed, where do you think Kiss's career would have been?
Well, Beth definitely helped, but I mean, already they'd had a huge anthemic hit with Rock and Roll All Night. I mean, that song was getting airplay on AM radio like nobody's business. I mean, it was really, the live version was a huge hit. I just remember it being all over, like, the local LA station was 10Q at the time. They played it constantly. I mean, that thing was in heavy rotation. So that sort of, had sort of solidified them in super rock stardom, I guess. But I mean, a song like Beth absolutely broadened the audience in terms
Well,
of.
I look at I look at it as the 1-2 punch. Like it's kind of like Kansas's career where they had Carry On, but
Right.
then they had Dust in the Wind. So
Just
it's like you have Rock and Roll All Night, but then you follow it up with Beth because Beth was a bigger hit than
absolutely,
Rock and Roll All Night.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I think I was reading last night, and I think it was Gene said that he kind of accredited a lot of Destroyer's success to it was the best quality recording they had that kind of captured the live experience. Because he said, like prior to that, I guess the other albums the recordings sound a little garage band-ish.
They're thin. Yeah, they're thin, but you know what? They sound great. I don't know. It's just, I've always had a problem with like the first, not Hotter Than Hell. Hotter Than Hell's great as it is. It just sounds good the way it is. But the first album, just there's a thinness to it. I don't know. And which is interesting because I have some bootlegs of them around the tours for the first album and Dress to Kill. And it's like somehow that didn't translate to the records because God, they almost sound like a punk band. Some of these bootlegs I have, they're just so heavy and sloppy. And if they could have harnessed that somehow, which they kind of did, on a live, which sort of was an anthology of the first 3 records. They kind of harnessed it, but then, of course, later on, you found out they re-recorded everything, and that's not really a live record. But yeah, some of these bootlegs I've had, like even the footage there's classic footage of them at Winterland during the Hotter Than Hell tour, where they just sound awesome, like just rock, just sloppy, and there's a lot of energy, and I don't know, somehow the records didn't capture that, and I think that's what everybody was sort of hungry for when Alive came out. It's like, oh well, there you go, that's what they're supposed to sound like that, heavy and just raucous and sloppy and everything, and then Destroyer was the exact opposite of that, very refined, and a lot of people accuse that of Bob Ezrin of maybe watering them down a little bit, because the production was much different and much more involved, and the songs structured, and there was huge arrangements, and like you said, they brought in other people. Other notables that they brought in to write was a guy named Mark Anthony, who wrote King of the Nighttime World. King of the Nighttime World was written by, what was his name? Mark Anthony, and the guy that pretty much engineered the Runaways' career and Joan Jett, Kim Foley. Kim Foley wrote, and Mark Anthony wrote King of the Nighttime World.
Oh.
So yeah, that Stan Pendridge guy. Bob Ezrin has writing credit on a lot of stuff.
Was that the first time that Kiss had went outside of the 4 to songs?
It is. Destroyer is notably the first record that they used any outside input from other writers or anything.
Well, let's try to get through this. We're at 10 now.
Right.
Okay.
So number 10, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley didn't want Beth on the album because it wasn't a typical Kiss song, but their manager, Bill Aucoin, insisted on including it during recording. During recording, Peter Criss was the only band member in the studio, so it's the only Kiss song without instrumental performances by any of the group's members. Right. Instead, it features a piano and a string orchestra. Yeah. The song went on to win the band a People's Choice Award in 1977, one of the very few industry awards they've ever scored.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember actually watching that on TV.
Okay, let me just ask you, Scott. Okay, we're kind of going off the rails a little bit here, but okay. So I think Peter Criss was a major contributor, even if it was just to this one song. But this is the one song I believe. I'm not like a big Beth fan, and I'm not overly defending the song itself, but I do believe that if that song wasn't written and it wasn't on that album, I don't think Kiss would have gone to superstardom. I think they would still have been where they were before, and they would still have been struggling. Because if you took that song off of that album, you have 2 strong songs, which are Detroit Rock City, which was a struggling hit to begin with. It was never a clear, and then Shout It Out Loud. They've later become like anthemic, like Kiss songs, and they probably made a lot of money because they, like we've already seen or read the one section where it talks about, how many people use those songs, especially, what is it? Oh God, I just blanked on the song, the main song. Shout It Out Loud. No.
Or Detroit Rock City.
Detroit Rock City. Thank you. So looking back right now, I think that if that song wasn't there, I don't think they would be as big as they are now. And this is where I want to ask you the question. Do you think that Kiss treated Peter well? I know that things fell apart. They broke up, and then Ace left and all that stuff. But then they had the reunion tour. So they had the reunion tour. So Peter, in his book and things, talks about how he doesn't think that he was treated fairly in the reunion stuff. So the Catman stuff aside, that they kind of used and they put it onto a different drummer and stuff like that. That aside, do you think that Peter's ego and Peter's I guess claims are valid just simply based on Beth?
Good question.
I don't know. He has always seemed problematic to me, like for the band. He just always did. And he never seemed, even you read the book, a great read is a book called Kiss and Sell, which was written by the guy that he worked for the company that handled the finances, and then later on he wound up managing the band later through, and into the end of Peter's tenure with the band, and then he managed them through the 80s a little bit too. And he just gives accounts of just Peter just was problematic early on. It was ego, and then just irresponsible, and I mean, of course he gave him their biggest hit, co-written with this Stan Pedridge guy. So I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
I just heard him interviewed on Eddie Trunk, Peter Criss's. He's got his book and everything. And I don't know. I mean, other than Eddie Trunk's claim and even Peter's claim that they shouldn't, and I think even Kevin has mentioned this too. That they should not have used their likenesses and put them on different musicians. But that aside, I think that if Peter Criss didn't have that song, I think Kiss would have had a totally different career arc.
Yeah.
Because that was their Dust in the Wind.
Oh, right? Totally.
I mean, there's nothing bigger.
And I'm glad you said that. That's a great analogy, Dust in the Wind, because Dust in the Wind opened up an entire new audience to a band like Kansas, where if you mention that song, I guarantee you most people they don't even know who the artist is. They know the song.
Yeah.
And Beth is kind of one of those songs, like, oh yeah, Beth, you call it. But a lot of people don't know or care that it's a Kiss song
because it breaks so many rules, and also it's a different lead singer. And the reason I brought up Kansas is because like Dust in the Wind is an instrumental. There's no drums. It's all kind of orchestrated.
And so, guitar,
and so is Beth, and it's kind of like the whole drummer connection where they took the drums out and they had a bigger hit.
And huge hit, exactly, without the normal archetype of what the band is. You have this enormous hit. How often does that happen? I mean, look at a hard rock band like Extreme, and then they have this enormous hit with just a vocal and acoustic guitar song, and it was their biggest hit. I mean, that happens all the time. And again, you play that More Than Words song, the Extreme song, and most people don't even know who the artist is, but they're very aware of the song. Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite songs, and it's Extreme. Oh, who? Kiss. Who? They don't care. They just know the song.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just back on the Peter Criss thing and the Eddie Trunk interview and all that. I think if I was Peter Criss, okay, and all that happened, I think I would come back to that reunion with a big ego. I think I would come back strutting my stuff.
I gave you Beth.
I gave you Beth. I gave you huge hit. Yeah, I gave you an enormous. I mean, in a lot of ways, at that point, he could say, I mean, with adding to that, I gave you your career. I kind of did. I mean, which it did because that song. There was after that song became a single, there was a huge spike in sales for Destroyer.
Yeah, actually, that's what I had read.
It started to fizzle. Yeah, it started to fizzle. Yeah,
it started strong, and then, like you said, when the B-side was Beth, then it renewed all the interest in that Destroyer album and in Kiss as a band. So I'm just putting in a historical, and if it was me, I was Peter Criss, I think I would kind of go in there thinking, you know what? I know I quit. You guys, a decade later, something like that, you continued the band and all that stuff, and I appreciate that you kept the band alive and stuff, but I have this song.
Yeah. And I think with that, I mean, he could use that as artillery but notoriously they've used other musicians to sing that song throughout Peter's absence. Eric Carr was the first guy. He did Beth. He actually re-recorded Beth. Eric Carr, the drummer that replaced Peter, which was kind of weird.
Wow. Yeah, that's kind of a
they had him
move.
Yeah, they had him re-record the vocal. Yeah, he did it. I don't know that he ever did it live, but Eric Singer does it. Eric Singer performs Beth.
Oh, that's weird.
It is weird in Peter's makeup. Yeah, which is weird. It is. It's a little odd, but it's Kiss. Nothing. You never say never with Kiss.
Isn't that just acknowledging? Once you do that, isn't that just acknowledging? We all know you wish Peter was here, but
But here's another. Yeah, here's Eric Singer. Yeah.
Okay, this is just a take because I've been listening to all of these interviews and stuff while I'm working, and I was just thinking that maybe the reason Peter isn't more I think all of it comes out of a disrespect for Peter, and I think Gene and Paul felt like that they were the guys that kept the boat going, they kept that train rolling, and it was their drive, and they're not screwing up, basically.
That's true.
They kept it all going, and then this guy comes in. He's an alcoholic, self-proclaimed. He says he's an alcoholic, drug addict.
Especially at that time. Yeah. Absolutely.
Comes in, and he's a flake to begin with. He always kind of was, and then he stumbles on the biggest hit that they've ever had. I think there would be just some resentment.
Of course. Do you doubt that at all? Because the two primary songwriters didn't come up with the goods. I mean,
their biggest hit.
And then, like you said, he stumbled. It's like he tripped on a gold bar. Yeah. Look what I found. Yeah.
So I see it from both sides, because if I was Peter Criss, I'd be strutting my stuff.
Yeah.
But if I was those other two guys, like Gene and Paul, I would probably hold him in some kind of contempt as well, because I would just be thinking, listen, man, we're in the studio every day. We're busting our hump here.
Yeah, he would.
24/7 trying to make this thing a hit. You stumble in, you record the thing. You don't even. It's even in question if you wrote the lyrics, let alone the music.
Well, how much you wrote,
Right. And then you stumble in and you write this song, or you perform. Because we're all in agreement. He performed the song.
Yeah.
And then
did all the arrangements. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it becomes the biggest thing. This is history.
And it's a well-known fact that, he's always used that as sort of leverage in the band. A very famous story was that when it came time to do Dynasty, he wanted to use a guy by the name of Vinnie Poncia, who produced Unmasked and Dynasty, because Vinnie Poncia had done Peter's solo record, which is, I know a lot of people don't like it. It's not in the Kiss vein. I love it. I think it's a great sounding record. It's very well produced, very well produced. Peter sounds great. Yeah.
That album stinks.
I like it. From a production standpoint, it sounds amazing. But Peter did not play on. I don't know if he played on any of it. It was a guy named Alan Schwartzberg that played. So on the success, the record. I shouldn't even say that, because his was the least successful of the four. So on the heels of that, they were getting ready to go in to do Dynasty, and Peter's leverage was, look, I won't do the record. I'm not going to do the record. I think maybe even I'll leave the band if you don't use Vinnie Poncia, who was also famous for working with Ringo Starr. So he worked with Ringo Starr throughout Ringo's solo career too.
Weird.
So they said, great. Yeah, sure. So I guess they had a meeting. They met him. Everything was good. And then Vinnie Poncia decided that Peter wasn't good enough to play on the record. so that's how Anton Fig came into the fold to play.
Wait, I know Anton. Oh, on Dynasty, okay, because Anton did Ace's solo.
Exactly.
And that Rip It Out. When I was a young drummer, that.
Oh God, that record was huge. Yeah, for a years ago. Oh my God, listen to that. Those feels exactly. But then I think it was Ace that recommended actually Anton, and so two people that were supposed to be his allies kind of turned on him, and
Taylor, if you don't know, I know you're a lot younger, but you remember the David Letterman show, right?
Yes.
Okay, he had a host band, like they were always there. So
the world's most dangerous band.
The world's most dangerous band. And that drummer was Anton
Fig.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that dude is a
monster.
He's a badass. He is so freaking good. Him, you know what? There's something about, like, I know I'm going. You know what? We're probably not going to break these songs down because we're going in a totally different tangent. This is better than anything Taylor and I had planned. But the thing, we could still get into it if we want to go long, but it'll probably seem like the same territory. But the drums, like, there's something about Ace Frehley and a good drummer.
Oh yeah,
that brings that guy to life, because all the best Ace songs have really good drums on.
They're without Pete. Yeah.
And they're all without Peter. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Llama Gigante in the chat says, I'm not a fan of Kiss music per se, but I find the band and phenomenon endlessly fascinating.
They are. That's what I'm getting at. Is even if you don't like the whole thing with Beth opening up to people that didn't even know Kiss existed before that, you just get sucked in. I mean, just the mystique of the band. That's how big they are. Like the mystique of the band. It's got a life of its own.
The chat is also a little anti-Peter. Peter Criss is objectively a bad musician, says the chat.
He's not great. And the funny thing is he's just shot himself in the foot time after time.
He kind of has a reputation of being a little bit whiny.
Yeah. And like even the book I thought was a little bit whiny and woe is me. And I mean, there's some self-deprecation in there too, where, he blames himself for a lot of stuff, but he just seems like he has an enormous ego about and feels that he was mistreated even through the reunion, like 96, which was great. That was a great period to be a Kiss fan, but that he was, treated like an employee and.
Well, he did find out that he was paid less than Ace at one point.
Oh God!
Oh, what? Yeah. Okay, that's messed up though.
Yeah.
I was just me and Art we talk about Kiss a lot these days.
I'm glad.
And we were talking about there's a Kiss episode of Family Guy. I know, everybody. But there's like a part that I think summarizes public opinion about Peter pretty well. Because like they run into the band at a restaurant, and they're all in makeup, like eating, and I guess the character Lois knows them, so they're all like, "Hey, Lois," and they're all like super like jubilant, entertaining, and then Peter Criss is just looking at his salad, and he's like, "There's not enough in this salad."
See, he's
He doesn't look up or
great.
anything.
That's great.
That's hilarious.
That is funny.
It's like he's that well known for kind of
exactly. There you go. Even in pop culture, like it reared its ugly head.
Yeah. Even on that Eddie Trunk where he was trying to get sympathy, and Eddie Trunk was giving it to him. And I think Eddie gives it to him mainly just that Kiss basically are using the makeup and trying to pawn the new drummer off as Peter Criss. Because if you don't know the controversy, guys out there, the controversy is that is it a character or is it a person playing a character? So is the Catman Peter Criss, or is the Catman just a licensable character? You know, that can be, you know, brought into any different drummer. And so the one thing that Eddie Trunk says is that he's not. Like, Peter Criss is the Catman, and that's it. You know, when you don't have the Catman, you don't have Peter Criss. They're synonymous. And so he said something about what it was. Did you ever hear the quote that he says about Dimebag Darrell? Because I guess Dimebag died with a Ace Frehley tattoo.
Oh yeah,
on him. And he says, you know, tell that Ace Frehley, the Space Ace, isn't the same guy. So tell Dimebag that the guy committed to a tattoo. You know, he sees Ace Frehley, the Starman, as Ace Frehley, like they're the same guy. Yeah. And so I think that's where I give Peter the most sympathy, and also where I give Peter the most is that I think he has one of the best voices in the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have liked to see him sing way more. And Black Diamond is one of my favorite songs just because of his vocals on it. Yeah. And so that's what I like about Peter. It's just like I like his vocal abilities.
Amazing.
And I like that you know, and where I back him is the suit, is the Catman persona. And if you believe everything that they say, those guys created that. So if Peter actually did create that persona, then you know what I mean? How do you take that? That is him. He is that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And then what Eddie Trunk says, and I think this is the strongest argument, is that if somebody else dressed up like the Demon, or somebody else dressed up like the Star Child, how would Gene and Paul feel about that?
Yeah, think about that. If there was other circumstances,
would they be
really good? Would they be okay with it? But with that, they're actually sanctioning. I told you this whole thing where there's going to be a Kiss touring with no original members, and they're fully behind it. So, you know, I mean,
did we talk about that last time?
I think I did bring it up in passing, but that is supposedly a real thing, that Kiss is going to go on without the original guys.
Man, Art, you called that.
Yeah. You know, I mean, so they're fully behind it, and you know, I guess the argument is, well, Kiss is bigger than any of us individually. You know, it's something that deserves to go forward. So I'm sure it'll be like a show. I'm guessing almost like a Broadway show where they cover maybe every era or something. I mean, there's no real talk about what it's going to be, but yeah, they've talked openly about it going on without any of them.
Art, you had an idea about that like way back. Did you ever pitch it on here?
Maybe just that that they should just license it out. That,
yeah, exactly.
They should just license the looks out to new musicians, and then it's kind of like there's a cartoon show called Batman Beyond. Have you ever seen it, Scott?
No.
Well, the idea is that it's in the future, so Batman, aka Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, is retired. And so he's an old guy, and it's in the future. So there's a younger guy that comes up, and he dons the mantle of the Batman.
Okay.
And so he's mentored by Bruce Wayne. So you still have Bruce Wayne, the original Batman, in the story, but you have this new this new guy, this younger Batman.
There you go. That's the exact premise. Yeah.
And so I always thought like you could have Gene, Paul, Peter, and Ace, I guess, if they wanted to, basically mentor and still write material for the new Kiss, but then let those guys also write and become their own personalities and establish their own voice within the band, while being managed by at least those two guys, Paul and Gene.
Yeah.
And then if you do that and people buy into it, then every 10 years or as musical like trends change, you could just kind of trade up band members. You know, you could just plug new guys in.
Yeah,
I think that'd be cool.
They age out, and next.
And then as long as the zeitgeist and as long as people were willing to accept it and it was successful, they could keep going on even long after Peter and all those guys are gone, after they're dead and gone. Yeah. That's crazy to think about, right?
Oh my God. Well, it's supposed to be a real thing.
They could even get their own personas, so it'd be like different seasons of Kiss.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like if they really wanted to save money and just be uber commercial, you could have touring bands like in different places in the world, so that they don't even have to like you have your European Kiss, you have your Asian Kiss, you have your you have your North American.
That's fun. That's exactly what I thought that it would be. It was more like a Trans-Siberian Orchestra thing where there's companies. There's like a United States national company, and then the European version, and they tour simultaneously around the world. It's a show. It's like Barnum and Bailey.
Yeah. What was that one? Do you remember? There was a Kiss, not Kiss. It was the Beatles, and there was a touring Beatles.
Beatlemania. Remember Beatlemania? How big that was? I mean, they did like a residency at like Knott's Berry Farm, and that thing was like a Broadway show.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. TV. I mean, it was all over TV when they came into town in L.A. I think it was at the Schubert Theater. And it was all over TV. The only problem was it really pissed off the actual Beatles.
Yeah.
I can see why.
Problem. Yeah, that was the only problem, is it was not sanctioned by them, and they were upset about it.
But
and then people had careers out of that thing. Marshall Crenshaw came out of it.
And even the Romantics.
Yeah.
But the Romantics were one of the touring
exactly the Beatlemania, exactly. Like people had careers out of the Beatlemania thing.
Yeah. Hey Taylor, if you don't know the Romantics, you know that song "What I Like About You"?
Yes, I know that song.
That's the Romantics. Yeah, and the drummer sings that song, and he sings it. He's kind of like a Ringo. I guess his voice.
Ringo.
Was he like Ringo? But
no.
He played kind of like, but his voice wasn't like Ringo, right?
No.
But
he was good. He was the guy. I liked him. He was my favorite Romantic, if there's such a thing, I guess.
The drummer, right?
Yeah.
He had a good voice, yeah.
You guys have such drummer loyalty.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's move on to number 10.
All right. We are actually now at number 11.
Oh, okay. Okay, wait. To back up, guys, what we're doing is this is the 42nd anniversary, if anybody's tuning in late, 42nd anniversary of Kiss Destroyer. Came out in 1976, and so we're kind of breaking down the album. And if Scott's still willing, we can still do sound bites, and we can still talk about each track. I just don't want to keep Scott for too long, but if he's willing, we'll do that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so right now we're reading some facts about the album that you guys might not know.
Yeah.
So, 11. The title for Shout It Out Loud was taken from the British group The Hollies' song, We Want to Shout It Out Loud. Gene and Paul sang a cover of We Want to Shout It Out Loud with their pre-Kiss band, Wicked Lester.
Yeah.
And of course, number 12, Shout It Out Loud is one of the very few Kiss songs to be sung by both Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley.
That's true. There's a back and forth. That is true.
I like that song a lot. I think as far as anthemic rock song, that's got to be up there in the top 20 at least. Yeah.
And number 13 is about one of the more strange songs. I was listening to it this morning.
But let's go 12 first. Oh, did we do it already?
Yes.
Okay, shout out. Okay, and then 13.
All right, so among the sound effects used to make God of Thunder were explosions, clapping, zippers, audience chatter, and screaming children. And those kids that are screaming are actually Bob Ezrin's sons.
No, he told the story once about that he was going through a divorce. It was his weekend to have the kid, and he didn't have anybody to watch them, supposedly. So he just brought them in, and they were screwing around and playing, and he left the mics open, the room open in the room, and he just let it record. And supposedly that's his kids. Yeah, they're like arguing over a toy.
Well, one of the kids says something like, "It's too loud," or something like you hear him yelling.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds. I mean, you hear it because it's always been. Oh, it's supposed to be like demons. Like, no, you can hear it. It sounds like kids arguing.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna picture those kids like running around Gene Simmons while he's trying to play.
Yeah. They were just screwing around, and that thing at the end supposedly is like a toy ray gun or something. That weird noise that you hear at the very end, the fade out. Yeah.
That's funny.
All right, number 14. God of Thunder was originally more of an up-tempo rocker song sung by Paul Stanley. But producer Bob Ezrin felt it would be better work for Gene Simmons, the demon persona, if it was slowed down and the bassist took on the vocals.
Yeah,
so they gave it to Gene.
That was a good call. That was a great call.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I know.
Yeah, that probably would have been funky with Paul.
It seems weirdly obvious, but sometimes, like creatively, some of that stuff just doesn't come right away. And then you're just like, wait a minute, this would be a way better fit. And then it became like, it's basically Gene's song now. I mean, that's identified with him.
Yeah, even though Paul Stanley wrote it. Actually, on the reunion tour, Paul Stanley did sing it. Most notably, I'm trying to think. There were some dates they did where Gene Simmons lost his voice, and actually Paul Stanley sang "God of Thunder."
I always associate it with that demon persona. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because live, isn't that where he gets the dragon out and it does the flame thing during God of Thunder?
Yeah. Whatever that. I can't remember what that dragon's name is. It has a name.
Oh yeah, points to the chat if anybody can identify the Gene Simmons dragon pal.
Yeah, there's a name. I just never remember what it was.
It's Lenny.
It's like Lenny or something silly. Yeah.
Is it really Lenny?
I don't know.
No, silly.
I could totally go along with my weirdness.
I could totally see him naming it Lenny.
Lenny the dragon. Where's Lenny?
Yeah. Where's Lenny, my dragon?
Where's Lenny? Yeah.
All right, 15. Flaming Youth was originally 3 different songs that producer Bob Ezrin put together into one track. Among the pieces he used to create the tune was a riff that Gene Simmons wrote called Mad Dog, which appears in 2001's box set.
It is. It is. And it was modeled after, sort of, lyrically, My Generation, The Who. They wanted like a battle cry for youth, for the youth of that time, just like My Generation was.
Interesting.
But does Paul stutter, though?
I know, that would have been cool if he did the stutter. And I have a bootleg. I have a bootleg of them at Roosevelt Stadium on the Destroyer tour, and the stuff is still so new, the material, that he actually forgets the lyrics to Flaming Youth.
That's funny.
and he's just like mouthing, like mumbling, but he clearly doesn't know what the lyrics are.
That'd be funny, but then he just does the set the world on fire.
Yeah. Or just goes into one of his weird rants about vodka and orange juice.
One of the best songs I saw Kiss do, this was the new Kiss band, is they did which Who song did they do? Is it Bob O'Reilly? Or Won't Go Fooled Again? Won't Get Fooled Again. I think maybe it's Won't Get Fooled Again. Yeah. And that drummer rips it.
Oh, he's great. Oh, God.
Yeah.
The chat has a couple questions. Do you guys want me to keep it till the end?
No, go ahead.
All right. So Llama Gigante wants to know your guys' thoughts on Vinnie Vincent since he reemerged.
Oh, he's nuttier than ever. He just seems wackier than ever.
Another problematic Kiss member.
Yeah, he just seems wacky. You know what? Speaking, I just finished reading the Bobby Rock book. Bobby Rock was the drummer in the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, and how difficult Vinnie Vincent was, and just how he really kind of screwed all those guys over, like the band guys, and financially. And he even took gear, like he even took some of the gear, and it's really weird. It's just he sounds like a really interesting guy. And then, of course, he just became a recluse after the demise of the Vinnie Vincent Invasion. He just kind of disappeared, and there were little snippets here and there in the press about, spousal abuse and things, and that he was in Nashville, I guess, just living the life of a recluse and raising dogs. I think he bred dogs or something.
The weird thing about Vinnie Vincent is that he was clearly like an egomaniac. Like he was maybe even bigger than Peter Criss, or at least rival Peter Criss's ego in the band. And but then to become a recluse, I think Paul in his book says the biggest reason they fired him is because his solos, he just thought it was about him. So his solo went on forever.
Yeah, they couldn't cut him off. Yeah, that he would just go on these long solos.
Yeah, so then Paul finally cut him off one night, and then Vinnie Vincent just had a hissy fit, and then that was kind of it. Then Paul was just like, listen, man, you're out of here. I can't deal with this anymore.
That's saying something.
Right? I know. Think about that.
The chat says apparently there was a rumor that Dimebag was buried in one of those Kiss coffins.
He is.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, he's like
Gene,
the biggest.
Gene actually donated it. Yeah.
He's like the biggest Kiss fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Shatnerific wants to know, have you guys talked about the infamous lip syncing? I think we talked about that a little bit at the beginning.
Early. And I mean, I know that the last time I saw them in Art, you saw them on the same tour that I did not that long ago. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's tracks and lots of stuff, but there was the big debate over the Kiss Cruise, whether Paul Stanley was lip syncing or not. And clearly he's singing, because it doesn't sound great, but everybody knows that. Like, it just doesn't sound great. If you're going to lip sync to something, I mean, have it sound really good. Why would you be lip syncing it?
Or at least better. Yeah, because when I saw them, there were a lot of tracks that they were.
Oh, there's tons. Yeah.
But the thing is, if Paul and Gene were playing to a track, like their vocal track, it wasn't good.
I mean, why would you be lip syncing? Exactly. Like, why?
Yeah. I thought Gene actually still pulled it off.
Yeah.
But Paul had a lot of trouble. There was a lot of, he still brings it theatrically, and he's still a great showman, but the voice just wasn't there. But the production really, really helped. And those two guys, the new guys, they are pretty powerful backing vocals.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
They're pretty strong.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to read 16 and 17 in conjunction with each other, because they're pretty related. So 16, and by the way, if you scroll down, everybody looking at that, some of these kids are rocking the Kiss makeup better than the others. And that little girl in the very front right there, who has like a little choker on and the Gene makeup, probably looks the best. She looks pretty cool, legitimately. She has her hair pulled back in the same way. She went all the way. Anyway. Okay, 16.
That girl right there, that's a young Tag.
Young Tag. Oh no, it's Tag.
I wish. I probably would have picked the Lover makeup, but anyway.
Just a star. It's easier too, just a star. Right?
All right, yes.
That's so gay.
I think we should vote Tag and Kiss makeup for the next.
Oh gosh.
Well, no one even knows what she looks like, so people in chat are constantly like, what is Taylor? Yeah, what does Taylor look like? So I think eventually we should say, if Black and White does 50K, Taylor will do a MTV style unmasking.
Nice.
but in Kiss makeup, and then when Volume 2 comes out, I'll take the makeup off and redo
the real Tag. And then the real, exactly.
So it'll be like a masking instead of an
exactly.
Unmasking. So it's masking to create an unmasking event.
It's
okay.
a whole thing, exactly. Masking time to unmask her, exactly.
That could be our shtick.
It'll be a two-part thing. Yeah, let's do this. Right? Okay. So Taylor, I'm gonna keep talking about this.
Oh my gosh.
You said it. We're gonna Scott? We're gonna make this happen.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
You get monetized by the next Kiss Corner.
I like it.
I'll do something.
I think you'd look better than that girl that you're like saying looks cool.
She looks pretty cool.
Which one? Which one do you like?
Okay, she's in the very front, and she is on the right side. There she is. Yeah. She looks like she has a little choker on. It might be a T-shirt that's just up really high.
No, I think it's a choker. It's just not real tight.
And she has the Gene Simmons. It's even pulled back like Gene Simmons' hair.
She's got the little widow's peak like painted in there. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
See, she's got it. That little boy that has like the half dyed hair, he's trying too hard. That's not the Kiss look.
Not good. Not good.
You know, right after that, she's like, God of Thunder.
Well, she could have gone. She could have gone the girly route. Like she could have done like a classic like Ace thing, like all those other girls are doing. But she's like, no, I want the demon.
I think that is Taylor. I really do. This is something like this is found footage from like your mom found this.
Whoever that kid is, I bet she grew up to be really cool.
Yeah.
Right?
I bet she's an excellent writer artist.
Right?
Anyway, number 16, the band recorded the song Great Expectations in full makeup and costumes alongside the Brooklyn Boys Chorus and invited the press to watch. And then Great Expectations uses some musical phrases from the second movement of Beethoven's Sonata No. 8 in C minor. True. Opus 13. It looks like it says pathétique, but I don't know if that's what it's called.
It says pathetic.
Pathetic.
Yeah, pathetic. Actually, the pathetic.
That was pathetic that Beethoven was used in a Kiss song. Pathetic.
But I don't know if that's true. I mean, I've seen photos of them in the studio in full garb, and was supposedly and Bob Ezrin in his tuxedo, and it's always those are the sessions for Great Expectation, and who knows? I mean, I don't know why they would record in full garb. So I don't know if it's just a publicity thing or.
Well, this is a little known fact. If you guys ever wonder what Scott looks like, that's a picture of him right there
in the studio.
Dressed like Beethoven.
Just like Beethoven sitting at my little desk.
Ray Thulu in the chat says, "I love Great Expectations. It's Gene and his most humble."
It's a brilliant song.
Our Great Expectations.
But his voice is just love it. I love the way that's recorded. Yeah, too.
All right, number 18. Fantasy artist Ken Kelly did the cover art for Destroyer. He agreed to create the album art, but only after he could see the band play live so he could get inspired. He later said the performance he watched blew him away. Kelly would go on to do the cover for 1977's Love Gun as well.
Hell yeah.
And then Ace Frehley, Space Invader, years later.
Oh, nice. He did that cover too? I didn't know that.
Yeah, spaceship, yeah.
Let's see. Number 19. The record label rejected Ken Kelly's first version of the album cover because they felt the scene was too violent because of the rubble and flames. Yeah. It also had the band, and I think you talked about this before, Scott, it also had the band wearing their Alive costumes.
Yeah, the wrong outfits. Yeah.
Okay, is this a clip from Carrie? What is this
It is. No, that is Carrie. That's the end of Carrie.
Oh my gosh.
It's pretty cool.
That's cooler. Well, I was gonna say that's cooler than a Kiss show, but I think that rivals a Kiss show right there.
Basic, yeah, rivaling Kiss.
And we've reached number 20. Destroyer was certified platinum on November 11th, 1976. Wow. The band's first album to ever achieve platinum status. Yeah. It's since gone on to be certified platinum a second time for sales over 2 million units.
Wow, that's insane. See, that's undeniable. That's why these guys are still around. That album cleaned up,
right? And maybe for the next Kiss Corner, a lot of people, I don't know, realize that actually Rock and Roll Over was released the same year as Destroyer. They put two albums.
Yeah. A lot of their albums were released
right back to back.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Rock and Roll Over came out, I'm going to say October or November of 76. You know, right on the heels of the success of Destroyer.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have the Wikipedia tab, but you want to try to break down the songs, or do you guys want to wrap it up, or what do you want to do? It's your call.
Why don't we break down some of the songs? I could also play that Peter Criss song.
Oh, I want to hear that. Yeah.
If you guys
I'm gonna leave this up to Scott. So Scott, do you want to go right into the Peter Criss unreleased song that was cut from Destroyer, or do you want to go? It almost feels like we already went over the whole album, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to hear the Peter Criss thing. Totally.
Okay.
Okay, so this was Art. I believe you have the info. What's the name of the song?
None of your business.
It's none of your business, and it's
not to be confused with Missing Persons. It's totally
ain't none of your business,
right? It
ain't none of your business who I'm seeing. It ain't none of your business.
So yeah, this song was cut from the album, and the vocals are Peter Criss. I'm gonna try my best to play this.
And this is a cover. Do you know who did it originally?
Oh my God, I don't.
Let me see. Okay, I'm going to go to the Wikipedia. I think they talk about it. Let's see if I can find it. Album artwork, Destroyer. Oh, there's the Resurrected that you were talking about.
It's a cover.
I believe it is. I think if I remember what I read earlier.
Because we covered that the detectives got a hold of it later.
Right.
But I don't think it was. I don't think it was a Kiss song.
Originally, it was a cover. Wow. I didn't know that.
I can't find it now. Of course, I can't find it after I.
Let's see.
Ken Kelly.
Something Anderson.
None of your business.
Rusty Anderson?
I'm trying to find info on it too now because now I'm curious.
I know. I want to know who actually did it.
Well, I'm kind of surprised that we stumped Scott. Now I'm doubting that I actually read it right.
I just didn't know that it was a cover.
Yeah, it's on. I believe it's on that remastered. Let me see.
Oh, on the Resurrected.
Resurrected.
They added a bunch of stuff. That's a great.
No, that's the Sweet Pain that you were talking about. So Sweet Pain is on the Resurrected album.
The Ace Frehley guitars put back in.
Well, let's see how long I can get away with playing this. I guess I'll just play like a
I'll
snippet.
keep looking. I'll keep looking while you do that.
All right, I will start playing this.
It ain't none of your concern who I see and what I do. Ain't none of your business. Never you mind. Ain't none of your business. Never you mind. If you want to make something out of nothing, let your imagination be your guide. Sticking your nose where it ain't wanted. Ain't none of your business. Never you.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I think Peter's got a great voice. I love it. I love his voice.
Right?
And I found the information. So, what do you think of the song? What do you think of the song, Scott?
I like it. It's definitely. I don't know if it sounds like him playing drums.
He's what? I'm sorry. I hear breathing.
It doesn't sound like him playing drums because it's just a really hip part. You know, like it's actually a pretty cool part, and that's why I always question, like even on some of the stuff on Love Gun, if that's even him playing.
because sometimes when there's timing things like that, it just doesn't seem like he's capable of doing.
No, that's what I mean. Like it's a pretty good part with the hi-hat work and stuff. And he didn't yeah, he just didn't play like that.
Yeah,
that wasn't his thing.
Well, check this out. Okay, so it was originally written by country songwriters. Becky Hobbs and Luke Anderson was rejected by the band and later appeared on the 1977 debut album, Michael DeBer's band Detective.
Get out.
Although the song was rejected, other outside songs and suggestions were accepted by the band, particularly Kim Fowley or Fowley's.
Yeah, Fowley.
Yeah. That's the is that the King of the Nighttime World song?
That's the guy. Yeah.
So yeah, Kiss was definitely going outside of their usual writing. The four of them.
Using other people, yeah.
Yeah. So everybody don't do it now, but look up the Peter Criss Ain't None of Your Business. It's actually a pretty cool song. It's the recording's a little. What's that?
I like it.
I think it's great.
I just posted the link for your guys' convenience if you want to check that out.
Yeah,
in the comments.
So I'm glad, Scott. I feel like we actually accomplished something. We turned Scott onto something that maybe he.
I know. I was stumped. I actually didn't know.
Yeah. So I earned my keep today. Actually, Taylor did a lot of the research. Yeah. So Taylor did it.
I hope it sounded okay.
It sounded good in my headphones. I mean, as good as it's going to get. And also, the recording it's not the best recording.
Yeah, it was a scrap song, so I don't know if that was originally.
It sounds like some of the others. There's some others that appeared on the box set, and I have some other bootlegs from Destroy, and it sounds just like those. It sounds like all the other ones that I've heard.
That's funny.
Yeah. Production-wise.
Yeah.
And notably, again, drummer-wise, like I don't know, because I know Paul Stanley said that they often used a guy, what was his name? Kevin Valentine, I think, the drummer, to play on a lot of stuff, like the demos. But I don't know. Maybe they were keepers. Maybe they kept some of the stuff that he did, because it just doesn't sound like Peter's playing.
It didn't. No, I totally agree.
No. He just doesn't play that hip, like the hi-hat stuff. More simple and yeah.
Well, we've been giving Peter a lot of we've been razzing Peter a lot.
He is. He's taking a lot of ribbing today.
But you know what? Like weirdly, he's the alpha and the omega of this Kiss Destroyer album. If you think about it, like if that song wasn't on this album, so however it came to pass, however it became, however it happened, let's just say, it was still his vocals. He still kind of was the creative, drive of the song and everything like that. So I think history would have been completely different if that song and if Peter had performed it. Yeah. So yeah, he's kind of. I think he paid the price also for his bad behavior in the band.
Definitely.
So. But yeah, I mean, and that's all fact at this point. But he was a major contributor to the band, and I think that I think we're all in agreement that you can't really take that away from him at all.
No, he was a major contributor. I agree.
Yeah, not just the Catman persona, but at times there was some drum stuff that was fairly inspired. At least I'd like to think that. It was him. Maybe in a later Kiss Corners we can talk about some of that. But then and then Bess. So there's and the showmanship. I mean, he was a showman. There was what was some of the old footage when they had the funky drum riser and stuff, and he's like throwing the drums off the riser.
Well, because there's footage. No, there's that footage where they had that riser through, I think, the first few tours where it would skip.
Yeah, it was wobbly.
Yeah, and stuff would fall off, and then he would just kick the rest of his shit off of the riser. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like everybody thinks like, well, it was only Paul that destroys his guitar at the end of whatever song. But actually, in that performance, Peter, he threw everything off.
Oh, yeah, no, he's kicking stuff off. Yeah, he's going nuts.
There's something about destroying a drum set that's just way more scary than someone breaking a guitar.
Right?
I think he picks up the bass drum and he physically throws it.
Throws stuff off of the riser.
Off of the riser. And it's a riser. It's not a floor riser. It's like a riser that's elevated like what would you say? Like 15 feet, maybe 12 feet?
Oh my gosh.
Crazy. Yeah, no, he went nuts.
Hilarious and terrifying.
Yeah, that it was actually the riser was actually wasn't it like two guys that were actually lifting the thing up or cranking it or something, and it would skip, like it would tilt from side to side because it wasn't even. Like it was.
There's this great interview. Okay, you guys got to check it out. It's Snyder. What's that guy's Tom Snyder show?
Oh, that's great. The Ace Frehley thing.
Ace tells that story that you're talking about, and Ace says it like this: have you ever ridden a 10-speed bike? And so when you shift it between gears, sometimes it'll. Like the pedal won't catch, and it will just.
It doesn't catch. That's what this thing would do.
The pedal will jump like until it catches again, and he said that's how the drum riser worked.
Oh
like,
my gosh!
Like they would be raising it, and then it would drop like a foot, and then they would raise it, and it would drop.
That's exactly what I heard. Exactly.
That would be scary.
And then stuff would fall off.
But I'll tell you, when you look at that footage, because I don't know if that was real, if Peter just had enough, or if he, if it was part of the act. But I know you've had this, especially with cheaper equipment, Scott, because we're older guys, and we remember before. Remember Titan?
The hardware. Yeah.
The Titan hardware, was it Tama or whatever? Like Tama was revolutionary, Taylor. They used to have, they always had tripods that held up the cymbals and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you look at like even Ringo Starr's performance at Yankee Stadium,
the little flat,
those drums those cymbals and things, they're moving all over the place, Taylor. Like those guys are pounding those things so hard that the technology and the way those drums were built, they couldn't sustain it. No. So when even that Peter Criss performance that we're talking about with that riser where he throws the drums off, those cymbals and all that stuff is moving around like crazy. It's before the hardware became really good and solid. Yeah. And so I know you've been there too, Scott, when you're playing and you go to hit something and because it's cheap, it's moving and you miss it. Yeah, you miss it or like a cymbal. This happens to drummers, Taylor. This is horrible. Sometimes you'll drive your hand right into the edge of that cymbal. Like you'll just cut your knuckles, like you're hitting. It's like punching. It's like punching the cymbal instead of hitting the cymbal because you miss. And those old stands would move. So sometimes where you think it is, and then you go to hit it, it might not be the same place because of the cheap hardware. Because we were rock drummers, we're not like we're not playing these things nice.
We're hitting them hard.
We're hitting them hard. And so, man, I still remember. I hadn't thought about that until now. Remember that it was called Titan, right? It was Tama.
Yeah, the Tama was, and it's heavy. I still have a couple of those. That stuff was heavy. I mean, it was made really well. But
when Scott says it's heavy, Taylor, it weighed a ton. Like it was heavy.
One stand was just the weight just. Like, oh my God, like we lug that stuff around before cases with wheels and stuff. Like you're just carrying they're very heavy.
And they had arms that rocketed, like they angled across so you could bring the cymbals closer to you. Yeah. And then they had these heavy duty counterweights. And in those days, they were literally a counterweight. They were a weight, right? They were just a metal weight.
Yeah, it's an actual weight on the end of it.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about Peter's riser, if he had that hardware that later Tama came up with and stuff like that, I don't think that riser would have held that weight. Like,
God,
those guys tipping.
Yeah, those guys wouldn't have been able to lift it or anything.
Right?
Yeah.
Ray in the chat says, "I'm so hungover I can barely move. Kiss Korner is a nice companion to my coffee and aspirin. Feeling almost human."
Almost great tune.
Oh man,
great tune.
He also says regarding the Tom Snyder interview, I get great joy from Ace's fits of laughter in that Tom Snyder interview and Gene's obvious irritation.
Oh, they look pissed off. Yeah, they look like really just.
Okay, I'm gonna make an analogy. I saw that recently, and the last couple of times I went on EBS's YouTube, I felt like Ace Frehley. Like I had like this outer body because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm disruptive, just like Ace Frehley. And I could just see like Ethan just like rolling his eyes, like, oh god.
Oh, no.
The question is Ethan more of a Paul or a Gene?
I imagine him as Gene in that Tom Snyder interview, because Peter or like Ace is entertaining, I think, in that interview, but he's definitely going off the script. Like you could tell, like Gene had things he wanted to talk about, and
totally
going on. And I feel like that always like on Ethan.
No, because they were promoting a record, and you know.
And meanwhile, Ace is like putting his costume on a stuffed bear.
Oh, he did. He takes his arm things off and he puts them on the bear. That's right.
He's taking off his costume on the show.
This guy's a good egg.
Bands. Yeah.
Yeah, he says this guy's a good egg. He goes, he's a little hard boiled though.
To the bear.
Yeah. He's a little hard boiled. Yeah, that's how I am. Okay.
That's how I am.
Yeah, I'm a little like that. Yeah.
It's okay because it made the interview.
I wanted to add this maybe as a future Kiss Corner, because one of the things we kind of work out is future Kiss Corners while we're talking about the Kiss Corner we're doing at this moment. And so I've been looking into a little bit of Bob Kulick and Bruce Kulick.
Oh, God.
And you know, Scott, a little bit about both of those guys.
Oh, God.
But would you want to do like a show on maybe Bob, who's the less known?
Bob has been in the Kiss fold from the beginning, before Ace Frehley.
Yep.
Even. I mean, he's been around. No, he would definitely be a subject all on it. That's a show right there. Just literally talking about Bob Kulick's lineage with the band from the days of them rehearsing in the loft. Yeah, and even solo, being on the Paul Stanley solo tour, and ultimately being responsible for Bruce Kulick eventually joining Kiss.
Yep. The Shredder, Bruce Kulick.
The Shredder. And he's got a good... Bob Kulick has a great story about why, which we can share about why he didn't join Kiss.
I love that story. It's
a great story.
Why he didn't. But good. Okay, so that's cool. We'll do that, and I hope everybody enjoyed the Kiss
as well. I did
breakdown. Too. Yeah, because what I'd like to do is to do more of these breakdowns, because Scott is really, really informative.
I love it.
With all the studio stuff and bringing things to light. And I like creativity just in general. It doesn't even matter. Like, it could be a machinist and how he built something. I just love how people build things and how they create stuff. And so I love these kind of behind the scenes things. And not just with music in general, but with Kiss specifically. And so we have the opportunity, since we have you here, and I'm sure I mean we're really missing Kevin at this point, but Kevin, he's got a lot of insight as well on the backstory of these albums and Kiss and and their history. So I would like to do more of these like album breakdowns, Scott, if you'd like to.
That'd be great. And we're forgetting something else to look forward to is tag donning Kiss.
That's right.
So is
that sort of in the
on top of everything else, And Taylor, would you do that for $50K for the black and white Indiegogo?
I would definitely do that for $50K for the black and white Indiegogo, which is still around for in demand. If anybody wants to pick up a copy of Black and White Remastered, it is still there, and we still have a lot of tiers open and available.
Yeah, and I think it would be a blast to get which. Oh, you said you'd go as Paul, right? You do Paul.
I got to think about it. Maybe we'll put it to a vote. But if $50K, I'll do it.
I see Ace Frehley on tag.
When we get to $50K, I'll do it.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. And then like like you said, for like Black and White 2, we'll have the unmasking, the MTV style.
The unmasking on, yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
And at that point, we'll get Scott in here too, because Scott doesn't live too far. So we'll all three of us will make our makeup.
I'll be there for that. I'm coming for that.
Oh, that'd be a great promotional image, like for this show. We all have the makeup on, then we all have it off.
I would. Absolutely.
Yeah, we just wipe it off. Or we do some kind of visual where we like the screen wipes, like it's like a before and after. And it wipes, and then you see us. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
50K.
50K. 50K. So,
wow.
Yeah, very cool. Well, it sounds like we have a couple Kiss Corners planned for you guys. Hope you enjoyed. And Scott, do you have anything you'd like to, like a parting shot, would like to leave?
Just thank you for everybody that listens in. And I'm trying to be more active with my social media. I have a band mix page that I had where I put music up there. I'm going to start doing it more frequently. It's just bandmix.com, SMP Media. And I'll try to put a link. I've been posting some stuff to my Facebook page and trying to share, but I'm going to try to definitely be more active with that and just put, because I'm working on a couple records with some people and I want to post some of that stuff if I'm allowed to put up there too.
If you want to send me a link, I can include it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's great stuff. I heard some of the songs that you've demoed and things. Scott's a brilliant songwriter. Yeah. He does great stuff. And I still remember this. This is a little memory lane, but when we were trying to break down how to do triplets, and I think we both we both did like jerry rigged over the mountain triplets. And I think we double bounced or something on the sticks.
You did. You showed me how to actually do it, almost like bouncing the stick on the tom.
Yeah, on the tom. And then I think you came in and you're like, no, you use your foot. And I was like, what?
But do you remember one of the things I asked you to show me? Because I very vividly do.
What was that?
It was something you did on a recording. You do a lick on Living Incognito where you're bouncing the stick. It sounds like a triplet.
Oh, cool.
And I wanted you to show, you played it for me, and I wanted you to show me how to do that. And that's kind of how that got started.
I just remember, like, you blew my mind because somehow you figured out that it was bass, tom, snare, or like it was like tom. It was like, what was it, like right, left?
It is right, left foot, or right, left foot, right foot, right, left. Yeah, just sort of alternate. Yeah.
Just in the exactly. So if you guys ever hear that, like the over the mountain, that like those are triplets. And when Scott and I were first starting, we had no idea how that was done.
What it was, you just hear it and you like it, you figure it out.
Yeah, and then you came in and it's like, oh crap! I remember after that, I practiced just hours and hours and hours, and I to this day I will brag that my triplets are way smoother than even Eric Carr's.
Oh, then even.
You know that solo? I just listened to that solo that they put on one of the albums, and I was like, those sound like kind of like old '60s like triplets. They don't sound like contemporary, because like David Grohl, like, oh my gosh, those triplets he does are so smooth,
powerful. And powerful.
Yeah.
Only Kevin was here.
Only Kevin was here.
I know, right? Speaking of drum around.
Miss that guy. Right. Yeah, miss that guy. Kevin. Okay, Kevin. Yeah. So Taylor, you want to get us out, and we'll put a pin in this Kiss Corner.
Yes, thanks for joining us, everybody, on this lovely Saturday. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Maybe go back and watch some of our other videos. Maybe go watch another Kiss Corner. Please like this video. It helps boost our views. And we are not monetized at this time. So if you would like to donate, that would be cool. No pressure. And even better, well, you can also, in addition, get a copy of Black and White. The campaign on Indiegogo has ended, but the book is in demand, and we're still adding stretch goals for when we reach our 50K goal. We have a new stretch goal we announced not too long ago for 46K, and that is the collector's button / badge set. Go ahead and check that out in the link below. You can also find in the links Scott's social media. I believe it's SMP Media.
Yes.
I have the link there if you want to check it out. I'll update that with your newer link, Scott, if you send it over. Okay. Let's see what else we got. We have... Okay, support Black and White. And don't forget to, as always, like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications on this channel, and we'll see you again for another Kiss Corner.
Yes, and thanks, guys. Thanks for all the Black and White support. The Indiegogo book is doing well. Like Taylor said, we are so close to that 46. I mean, we're just a breath away. So then we can get those buttons into your hands, and then we can announce our next stretch goal, which is going to be a huge one. And I wish I could remember everybody's names. I wrote that down, but putting these shows together is kind of getting I don't know. It takes a lot of time. So
research.
Yeah, research. So I have it written down, and I'll try to remember to bring it down for the next YouTube chat. But I had a list of everybody I'd like to thank for donating. So we do have the PayPal. We have a PayPal link, and so people have been using the PayPal to donate for the show. And so I just wanted to take a moment and to thank all of you for your donations. My gosh, some of them are so crazy generous. It's one thing getting you guys to listen in, but when you guys actually start supporting with your dollar, it means the world to us, because it's like putting your money where your mouth is, and we really appreciate that. So thank you so much. And like Taylor said, the PayPal button or the link is there, so if you want to do the same. But we are overwhelmed with the response so far with your generosity. So thank you guys so much for doing that.
I do have one last thing, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Yes, thank you guys for your donations. Your donations help us justify putting these shows on. And one last thing I almost forgot. In the Black and White campaign, in the Ultimate tier, we've just released a special mini print. The image of the mini print is up there. So if you pledge towards the Ultimate tier, that is the mini print you'll be getting. It is exclusive to the Ultimate tier. You can't get it in any other tier. Go ahead and check it out. And it is of white and an alternate design. It's pretty cool. And if you haven't pledged towards the Ultimate tier and you'd like to get that, you still have a chance.
Yes. So thanks, guys. Enjoy your Saturday, and thanks, Scott, for co-hosting with me. I have a blast with you every time we do this. And thanks, Taylor, for all your research and the chat.
Thank you, Taylor.
Yeah.
Always.
Okay, guys. Well, have a good one. Talk to you later.
Nobody puts Kiss in the corner.
No one puts Kiss in the corner.
Bye, guys.